Tonight's the night if they play their cards right. Who are we talking about? Obama and Romney. James Creedon's here with Media Watch, the third and possibly decisive presidential debate.
That's right. But you know what, Mark? They're not the only two candidates.
I thought there were just two candidates.
Well, it's only two candidates tonight debating, but others are saying, hold on a minute. Hello, I exist. My name is Jill Stein, Green Party, remember me? And last week she was hauled off by the police and attached to a chair for 8 hours because she tried to break in to the presidential debate site at Hofstra University. And she learned her lesson pretty quickly that that's not allowed. And in any case, a number of I suppose slightly more alternative media in the US are drawing attention to this. One is the show called Democracy Now!, a daily independent global news hour. I think let's take a look on the computer because you have their website here. They drew attention to Jill Stein's arrest of the Green Party. They invited her on as soon as she came out of from being arrested with two other minor candidates by the name of George Farah. Or no, that's not his name. Excuse me, I'm getting it mixed up. But in any case, three candidates. They were invited on to debate this.
Can I just ask a question to clarify, because this is confusing me? It's not just Obama and Romney then. There are other candidates who get no airtime,
right,
basically.
And really get no airtime. Very, very
I mean,
little.
you might argue they get no chance of winning, but if democracy is democracy, they should get airspace.
They should get airspace, and they're not really getting it. Now, what Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! Is pointing out is that it highlights what she calls a debate stitch-up, because there is a Commission for Presidential Debates, the CPD, which excludes third-party candidates, among other things. Now, some people would call it even a private corporation that was created by the Republican and Democratic parties. And basically, the whole idea is that they regulate amongst themselves, you know, speaking time, the conditions of the debate between the two candidates, but between the two candidates, right? So there you go. That's the situation. And tomorrow night, none other than Larry King himself is going to moderate the third-party presidential debate, because they are creating quite a stink about this, and there is going to be a third-party presidential debate between four other candidates in Chicago, of all places, and that will be broadcast by some overseas media and streaming online. What's more, Democracy Now!, the show we just mentioned, that is, by the way, the Free and Equal Elections Foundation that is behind that third-party debate. But Democracy Now! On their website are going to, tonight, splice in the other candidates. So what they're going to do is basically, if it's a question of foreign policy, well, Romney's had his say, Obama's had his say. What about Jill Stein, for example? She doesn't like drones. She wants to see drones banned and military spending cut by 50%. So she'll get her say on Democracy Now! On their website. Because basically, if it's just down to Obama and Romney, the difference is 15 more warships for one, about 9 more for the other in terms of military. So
I'm
Tweedledum, Tweedledee.
To use an good old English word, I'm gobsmacked about this,
but
because
you know,
one would have thought there were just the two candidates.
Well, even today, even this afternoon, I was Googling parallel debate because I got it in my head that the debate was happening at the same time. You couldn't find any information. There's very little information on about this. You have to really kind of search for it. And then you do find articles such as this one, for example, Mark, on the Seattle Times. The third-party candidate causes second thoughts. She met the editorial team of the Seattle Times, which is big paper, but not a huge paper in the US. And she is now having second thoughts about this editorial writer. The Washington Post is wondering, are they neglecting third parties in this editorial piece? And actually, it's interesting to get their take on it. They're saying it's not the Post's job to be boosters for any presidential candidate. It's up to the candidates to compete in the rough and tumble of politics.
But if they don't get the airtime, they can't compete, can
That's
they?
exactly
That's the
it.
thing. So what price democracy? I mean, here in France, they say "Vive la démocratie" because there are laws that mean that all candidates need to have the same amount of airtime.
That's right. And let's roll some of those pictures, Mark, because we have pictures of earlier this year journalists who, and they found it a bit of a headache, right? But even somebody polling less than 1% would have, you know, here you see it, right? All 10 candidates in the presidential election, journalists had to give them equal time on air in the last 2 weeks, it must be said, not the whole time. Yeah. And so you had Dupont-Aignan polling at less than 1%. They had to talk about him as much as Hollande or Sarkozy, and that's required by law. So when you look at the US system, I think this seems quite sensible in a way.
And they must have used social media then to get their message across, because that's the alternative, isn't it?
That's it. And this is those electoral commission law in the US laws restricting third parties don't obviously apply to social media. So here you see Jill Stein tweeting to go into the voting booth and vote for either Wall Street-backed candidate. That is the definition of throwing away your vote, she says. Here she says as well, vote for your conscience. But what I thought was very interesting was a comment on that tweet. I have to admit, I'm seriously struggling. I believe in you, but so many say a third-party vote is a vote for the guy we don't want. In 2004, when Al Gore lost to George Bush, a lot of people said it was Ralph Nader's fault. He was a Green Party candidate then. He took, a couple of percent, which might have otherwise gone to the Democratic Party. So that goes against the third party candidates as well, that argument.
Yes, it's all very Machiavellian, the pragmatism of voting, isn't it?
That's it.
Eh?
That's it.
Vote for who you think can win. That's probably the line coming out of that. But well done to Larry King. It could be an interesting debate, couldn't it?
For moderating the third party candidates.
James, as ever, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Mark.
James with Media Watch. Short break after that. We're back with more news, of course, and we're live to Italy, where those scientists have been sentenced to jail terms for not predicting adequately enough the effect of the L'Aquila earthquake. Stay with us.